Right now, you probably have a to-do list, meetings, deadlines, a phone buzzing with notifications. You move from task to task without stopping. You call it productivity. You call it modern life. But here is a question no one ever asks. What did your ancestors actually do with their time? Not the romanticized version, not the survival every second myth Hollywood sells. The real answer is far stranger than you think. For most of human prehistory, a typical day looked nothing like yours, and nothing like what you were taught. Anthropologist Marshall Salins called hunter-gatherers the original affluent society. That phrase shocked the academic world when he published it in 1966, because affluent does not mean wealthy in the way you understand it. It means having enough, and ancient humans, it turns out, had more than enough time. Studies of modern hunter-gatherer groups like the Kungsan of the Kalahari show that adults spend roughly 3 to 5 hours a day on what we would call work. Gathering food, preparing it, maintaining tools and shelters. That is it, 3 to 5 hours. Then the day opens up into something else entirely. What did they do with the rest? They talked, they rested, they played, they told stories. Anthropologist Kim Hill spent decades studying the Ache people of Paraguay. He found that Ache-men, on a typical day, hunted for around 4 hours. Women gathered for 3. Then everyone came together. They shared food without being asked. Not because a rule told them to, because sharing was simply what you did. It was the infrastructure of survival. Generosity was not a virtue. It was a technology. Your brain remembers this. That pull you feel toward community, toward sitting with people, toward telling a good story around a table. That is not a distraction from real life. That is what real life was. Now think about your body for a moment. You were not designed to sit. You know this on some level. Your back tells you. Your hips tell you. Ancient humans moved constantly, but not in the way you imagine. Not running from predators all day. Not building shelters from dawn to dusk. The movement was low intensity, social, and intermittent. Walking to water, walking to foraging sites, crouching, climbing, carrying, resting deeply in between. Researcher David Reichlin at the University of Southern California has studied the Hadza people of Tanzania, one of the last populations living a lifestyle close to our ancestral past. What he found contradicted almost everything modern fitness culture tells you. The Hadza sat around just as much as office workers do. But when they moved without shoes, without machines, without targets. And their cardiovascular health was remarkable. Not because of the intensity, because of the variety. Your ancestors did not exercise. They just lived. Movement and rest were woven together like breath. But there is something else that happened during those long, open hours. Something that changed the entire trajectory of the human species. They imagined. The cognitive archaeologist Francesco De Rico has studied artifacts from sites across Africa and Europe going back at least 100,000 years. Ochre pigment, engraved shells, geometric patterns scratched into bone. These were not functional objects. They served no survival purpose. They were art. They were symbols. They were evidence that ancient humans, with time on their hands and minds alert and restless, turned inward and started asking questions. Who are we? What does this mean? What comes after? You are doing the same thing right now. The fire was central to this. Anthropologist Polly Wiesner analyzed 174 conversations among the Kungsan, recorded over decades of fieldwork. She found a striking pattern. During the day, conversations were practical, food, tools, logistics. But at night, around the fire, the register completely shifted. At night, roughly 80% of conversation became storytelling. Jokes, myths, histories, gossip about people in distant camps, accounts of things no one in the group had personally seen. Imagination traveled far beyond the fire's glow. This is where language got rich. This is where culture was born. Your bedtime ritual of reaching for a podcast, a book, a show. That is the fire. You are doing exactly what your ancestors did. Your brain needs that twilight shift from practical thinking to imaginative thinking. It always has. Now here is where things get uncomfortable. Your ancestors were not busy. They were not efficient. They were not optimizing. By almost every modern metric, they were deeply unproductive. They did not accumulate. They did not plan more than a few days ahead. They did not hustle, and yet they were, by many measures, happier. Evolutionary psychologist Gad Saad has argued that many modern psychological disorders, including anxiety, chronic loneliness, and compulsive behavior, are rooted in what he calls evolutionary mismatch. Your brain,